guys, so today we'll be starting with our new chapter, non-verbal intelligence. Okay, so non-verbal intelligence basically it is one chapter wherein you have a lot more. In this chapter you have a lot more theory, and it's a lengthy chapter, I would say. Okay, the reason it's a lengthy chapter is not because you're going in depth or you have a lot of complex things to study. It's nothing like that. It's just that I'll just show you. Yeah, so you have a lot more topics in this chapter. Okay, so it's about 7 topics, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, right? So you have a lot more topics in this chapter, which is why this chapter becomes lengthy. You're covering a lot of things. So these are things that could have come as one chapter, but the reason, I could have taken this as separate chapter. I could have taken mirror and water image as one chapter, or figure completion, formation of figures, embedded figures, counting figure, all of these as one chapter. The reason I did not do that is that the thing is, you can't say ki there will always be a question from mirror image or water image. In terms of priority, if you take any one topic or any two topics from this, the priority is not that high. So there is no, when you put it as one chapter, there's not enough priority if you put this into parts. But when you club all of this up, then that is when it has priority. So that's why I thought I'll teach it all under one chapter, which I call non-verbal intelligence. And this is how most guides do it too. But like most guides, they have even more topics. So if you look at some guides, you will see that they have even more topics under non-verbal intelligence. They have analogy, they have series, but I have taught analogy and series as separate chapters. So analogy, series, all of these are separate chapters for us, right? And that's because those have priority, those have importance. So I thought, okay, I'll teach these as separate chapters, and all of this I'll club together as one chapter. Okay, so anyway, the point is that when you do non-verbal intelligence questions, when you study non-verbal intelligence, the time that you would give for other chapters, make sure you keep more time for non-verbal intelligence, not for other subjects, for other chapters within intelligence. So there will be a couple other chapters within intelligence, right? So whatever is the time that you give for those other chapters, give more time for non-verbal intelligence questions. Okay, that being said, now let's begin. What is non-verbal intelligence? What we refer to is basically a person's ability to solve problems without relying on verbal cues. Okay, solving problems, that's pretty obvious, right? So you basically solve problems without relying on verbal cues. That's what non-verbal intelligence is. Okay, so basically, so if not verbal cues, what you might use your visual skills. Spatial skills. What are spatial skills? Basically, you imagine things in space, a 2D space or a 3D space. Think of like a cube or a dice, things like that. You imagine them in space. You use your visual skills. Pattern recognition. You say a couple of patterns and you look at that. It's mostly visual, right? And then logical reasoning and abstract thinking, things like that. That's what comes under non-verbal intelligence. So under this chapter, we will be discussing all of these things. So actually, see, when you say non-verbal intelligence, a lot of other things also come under it. For example, analogy, series, all of these are things that come under non-verbal intelligence. But like I said at the beginning, I will not be teaching these under non-verbal intelligence. I have taught them as separate chapters. So analogy and series have been taught as separate chapters, not under non-verbal intelligence, right? But those things also are types of non-verbal intelligence. Okay. Anyway, let's begin with this. So we will be discussing these following topics. What are the topics? Angular movement of designs, mirror image, water image, figure completion, formation of figures, embedded figures, counting of figures. Okay, just do something. I'll tell you. Read all these topics once and just guess which topic do you think will be your favorite. And then once we're done with the chapter and once we're done with the example session, think of what topic is actually your favorite and just see, so this is, I assume you guys don't have any idea what any of this is about, right? So it's just based on your first impression. You feel that, okay, this is, or based on whatever little knowledge you might have, you might feel that, okay, this seems like an interesting topic. But then see, after you actually study, you can compare with whether that is indeed your most favorite topic, right? So just read all these 7 topics once and just keep in your mind, okay, I think this is going to be my favorite topic. Just do that. Okay, I'll just give you some time. Okay, so time's up. So basically, I mean, whatever it is, just keep it in your mind, and once we are done with the chapter and the example sessions, just revisit it and think if that actually is your favorite topic. I'll just write it here. Favorite. I know I need to work on my handwriting. I am working on it. Okay. So, right, moving on. We start with our first topic, which is angular movement of designs. In this, the only concept that you need is clockwise and anti-clockwise movement. So the first time I taught you guys about clockwise and anti-clockwise movement, I think it was under clock and calendar. I told you that this is a concept that is very important, that you will see recurrently in things that you learn. So we saw it in clock and calendar, we saw it in direction sense test. Now you also need it in non-verbal intelligence. So that's very important for you to understand this. But here one extra thing is, it's not just that you need to know what is clockwise and what is anti-clockwise, but you also need to know the angles, like how much is 45, how much is 90 degree, how much is 180 degree, how much is 360 degree. Just know these. So basically 45 degree clockwise. So I hope you guys remember what clockwise is. Basically you go this way, the way in which a clock moves, or the way in which you close the lid of your bottle, right? So this is clockwise and this is anti-clockwise. Okay, now so for this 45 degree, how do you draw 45 degree? 1 second. So if you start from here, 45 degree is going to be, so okay, I'll just draw it here since we already have a figure. 45 degree is going to be this much. This angle is called 45 degree. 90 degree is going to be, I mean, I think you guys know what it is. A right angle is 90 degree, right? So 90 degree is going to be this whole of a right angle. This is what 90 degree is going to be. 180 degree is going to be a straight line. Okay. And then 360 degree is going to be a full circle. So these are just things that you need to know. You need to know what these angles are. So 45 degree, something like this. 90 degree is a right angle. 180 degree is a straight line. 360 degree is a full circle. Okay. So this is what we have under clockwise movement. Moving on to anti-clockwise movement. So that, like I said, so anti-clockwise means it will be this way. So basically, see, if you just always think of a clock. How does a clock move? Like this. Right, so basically like this. Anti-clockwise movement is the direct opposite of that. So if this is how a clock moves, this is how a clock moves. Anti-clockwise is basically like this. Okay, so you will, so like if the angle is closed, if you're starting from here, it will go like this for anti-clockwise movement. Okay, and I mean, okay, right, so that's how it goes. For clockwise, it goes like this. And then from here it goes like this. Okay, so from here anti-clockwise is always in this direction, right? So 15 degree, 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree, 90 degree is a right angle, and then you have 120 degree, all of that. So these are just, you just need to have an example of how, whether an angle is clockwise or anti-clockwise, and also the major angles 45, 90, 180, 360. How do these look like? Just have some idea of that, and that's all you have under angular movement of designs. Moving on, mirror image. What do we mean by mirror image? Basically, it refers to the reflection of an object into a mirror when that object is placed near it. What do we mean by mirror image? Just the reflection of an object. So if you have a mirror and you place an object near it, just the reflection that you have is what we mean by mirror image. So I mean, you guys would have noticed, right? So when you look in front of a mirror, your figure is something called laterally inverted. I think this is something that you have learned. So basically the thing is, when you look in front of a mirror, what happens is your right becomes the left and the left becomes the right. An easy way to do this is go stand in front of a mirror, hold something in one hand, like for example a bottle. If you hold your bottle in your right hand, you will see, when you look at the mirror, it seems like you're holding it in your left hand. So that is what happens. It's called lateral inversion, right? So the right becomes left and the left becomes right. Baki sab is the same, like your head. Your top will be the top itself. So if you look at your head, the head is at the top and your legs are at the bottom, right? In the mirror image, that's how it looks. You know, the head is at the top and the legs are at the bottom. So that is not an issue, but your right becomes the left and the left becomes the right when it comes to a mirror image, and that is what is called as lateral inversion. Okay, that's what we've said, laterally inverted. That phenomenon or that term is called lateral inversion. I think you guys will have learned this, although I'm not sure what grade you guys learned this in. Okay, I am not sure if this is 9th grade material or 10th grade material, but yeah. So anyway, that concept is called as lateral inversion. An easy way to check that out is basically just go stand in front of a mirror, hold something in just one hand, like just your right hand, and then you can see it. Okay, anyway, so now this is an example. So if this is like, okay, this is a mirror, this thing that you see, imagine that this is a mirror. Your J, if you hold something like a J in front of a mirror, it will look like this. So basically what has happened here is the right of the J will become the left, and the left part will become the right. The right portion will become the left and the left portion will become the right. This is what happens when the object gets laterally inverted. Okay. So the top and the bottom do not change. You see that the top is here, the top is here. It's the same, right? The top and the bottom do not change. Okay, that's basically what you have under mirror image. So in mirror image, there are some important things, not exactly important, something that will help you. Basically, that is knowing the mirror image of small letters, capital letters and numbers. Okay, we'll first start with capital letters. So these images that you have, the first are the actual images. The second is the mirror image. Just trying to draw a line as straight as possible, but I'm just not succeeding. Okay, let me try here. Nope. Very bad. Still bad, but I think this is better. Okay, anyway, so mirror images, this is how it looks like. So if you see, there are certain letters for which their mirror image remains the same. One of these is A. Okay, then which one? So just look at the letters for which the mirror image remains the same. So there is none of these. H, it remains the same. I remains the same. M remains the same. N, this kind of N does not remain the same, but if you just write it like this, then it will remain the same, right? Because like, okay, I'll tell you. Just look at the right hand side. So the right hand side is called the RHS. Okay, the left hand side is called the LHS. Just look at the RHS. Here you have a straight line. Now if this comes on the left, this will come in the left of the mirror image, right? It will still be a straight line. If this comes in the right, it will also still be a straight line. It doesn't make a difference. If this line comes here, I mean this is in the middle, right? So this line comes here, it still is the same. But there is a difference that will be. Do you know that difference? It's basically, right, even though this is in the middle, the thing is basically, this starts like, okay, sorry. Yeah. The left of this is at the top, right? Like, okay, see, just look at this line. The left of this line is at the top. The right of this line is at the bottom, right? So basically, whatever is left here comes to the right here. So here the left is at the top. Here it's going to be like this. So there will be a difference, whatever the case is. Okay. So because the left becomes the right and the right becomes the left. So not N. O works. What else? What else? What else? T works. U works in a way. V works. W, X, Y. These are the letters for which the mirror image is the same as the actual letter. Now, why are the mirror image the same for the actual letter? Because, for example, if you look at A, okay, and we take LHS, RHS. Now we need a mirror image where you have LHS, RHS. Take the left hand side of A. This is a line like this. Okay. What happens if you get this in the RHS? It becomes something like, so this same line in the left, if you get it in the right, it's still going to be something like this, right? Okay. And now this line stays the same. This line in the right, and then you have this line in the right. So it will come here. Come here, it stays the same. So there is no difference when it is in A. Or if you want, you can move on to O. For O, for example, again, same thing. LHS. Okay. So O, since it's like the left hand of O, the right hand, all of these are the same, right? So it will just be like this itself. So for O, it's just going to be the same. Okay, so the left hand will basically be something like this, the right hand will also be something like this. So all of these are figures where the mirror image is going to be the same. Okay, so A, H, I, M, O, T, U, V, W, X and Y, these are the images. Okay, now just let's take a look at the letters for which the mirror image is not going to be the same, the unlucky letters, some might call them, right? So for example, let's take a look at B. So B is of this kind. When you have the mirror image, what is going to happen is that one easy way for you guys to figure out mirror image is to just take the figure. Let's say my hand is the figure, okay? Just take it. If this is how it looks to me, okay, we'll do this. If this is how it looks to you guys, just take it and just invert it. Okay, I mean, this is bad. So just invert it and that gives you the lateral inversion. Okay, so just take it and just straight up invert it and you will get the lateral inversion. Okay, so basically, I'll do it with my phone. So if this is the figure that you have, for the lateral inversion, just move it like this. Okay, or let's say this is N. Okay, N. For lateral inversion, just move it 180 degrees. 180 degrees gives you the lateral inversion. So this is N. This is moving it by 90 degrees. This is moving it by 180 degrees. This gives you the lateral inversion. So similarly, if I have C, okay, yeah, I can actually show C here. So this is C, right? Now move it 180 degrees. This is moving C by 90 degrees. This is moving C by 180 degrees. This gives you the lateral inversion. So basically, if your C looks like this, okay, when you invert it 180 degrees, it will look like this. Just think of this C, think of moving it by 180 degrees and this is what you get, right? Similarly, if this is the D, and if you move D by 180 degrees, okay, just move it by 180 degrees, this is how it will look, right? So that's how you find. So to find the mirror image, basically, I'll just write it here. One very simple thing that you can do is move by 180 degrees. Or I can just say move by 180 degrees. So just visualize the moving of the figure by 180 degrees. That is a very easy, simple thing you guys can do. Okay, so this was mirror images of capital letters. Moving on, mirror images of small letters. Now how do we go through this? Okay, let's see. Basically, again you have the same thing. So A, okay, here the line has been drawn. I did not have to draw it. So yeah, anyway, so A, B, again try to figure out which letters remain the same. Are there any letters at all? So I, in a way, it remains the same, right? So basically, see, if I is going to be like this, it will remain the same. But if your I is something like this, it won't remain. If your I is like this, how will the mirror image be? Okay, just try to guess. Let me see. I mean, it's totally fine if you don't get it. We have just begun with the chapter. But yeah, just try to guess. If your I is like this, what will your mirror image be? What will your mirror image be? Just try drawing it. Okay, so basically how this will look is I will look like this. So basically just take your I, invert it by 180 degrees. So 180 degree, this is okay. See, if this is your I, this is the inversion by 180 degree, right? So you just move this figure to here. Basically just think like this. Okay, this is your I. Okay, if this is your I, this is how inverting it by 180 degree looks. This is your I, this is how inverting it by 180 degree looks. Okay, so this is how, so then in this case the I will not look the same, but in this case your I is going to look the same. So I is one potential candidate, J does not look the same, K does not look the same, L again looks the same. If you just draw, if your L is just something like this, it will look the same, but if your L is like a fancy L like this, then it won't look the same. Then the mirror image of this will be something like this. Okay, M again depends on how your M is, but M can look the same. If your M is something like, no, not this. If your, okay, I have an eraser, why am I doing this? Okay, if your M is something like this, it will look the same. But if your M is something like this, it won't look the same. It will be a bit different. Okay. N again depends, but it can look the same. O can look the same. R, no. S, okay, will S look the same? Just, okay, I'll give you a minute. Think of how your S will look. Invert it by 180 degree, okay? And let me know if it will be the same or not. What do you guys think? Right, so time's up. All you need to tell me is whether for S the figure will be the same or not. Basically the answer is no. Why? So for the S, the figure will be something like this. Okay, so just imagine, right, if you have an S here, if you move this by 180 degree, this is how the figure will look, right? If you can't envision it, just try it on your hands. So this is your S. If you move it by 180 degree, the figure is going to look something like this, right? So that's your S, that's how your S is going to be if you move it by 180 degree. Okay, and so for S it does not stay the same. Stay the same. For T again no, but if you draw your T something like this, it stays the same, right? If this is your T, it will stay the same, because if this is the T, even if you laterally invert it, that is inverted by 180 degree, it still stays the same. Okay, it stays the same. For U also, it depends on your U, but it can stay the same. U, if it's something like this, yes, but if your U is something like this, then no, the figure will be something like this, right? If you invert this, it becomes something like this, so no. V stays the same, W stays the same, X stays the same, Y again depends, but if your Y is going to be something like this, okay, actually no, nobody draws a Y like this, it's usually something like this or this, right? So no, let's say no for a Y. It's a no. Okay, so it does not work for Y. Okay, so these are the letters for which you can possibly have same mirror images. Baki sab does not work. So let's just take one letter and see if we can just get its mirror image. Okay, take F for example. Okay, if this is your F, how do you get the mirror image? Okay, nothing too fancy. Let's just make this our F as given in the picture. Okay, if this is your F, how do you get the mirror image? Just envision inverting it by 180 degree. So it will be something like this. Okay, just take this as your F. How do I draw this? Okay, see this. Okay, see this as your F. Now if you are inverting it by 180 degree, it will be something like this, basically this figure. So take your image, think of inverting it by 180 degrees. So just think your image is there in front of you. Okay, your F is there in front of you and you're taking it and you're inverting it by 180 degree. How will it look? That's all you need to do. Okay, so that's how you get the mirror image. Right, so that's it. Now coming to the mirror images of numbers. Right, so we're done with letters, we're done with capital letters, we're done with small letters. Now all we need to do is go on to the mirror images of numbers. How do we get that? Basically, okay, so this is your number and this is how the mirror image looks. So as you can see, it doesn't have everything. I'll tell you why. So basically for for these numbers, the mirror image does not work. But what about the other numbers? I want you guys to think about the mirror image for 0 and 8. Do you think it will be the same or different? Okay, I'll just give you some time and you can let me, you can't let me know, but yeah, you can think about it, okay? Right, so the answer is the figure does not change. No, the figure does not change. So the mirror image for 0 and 8 does not change. The figure does, which is why I have not included it in this picture. So 0 remains 0, 8 remains 0. So just think of, take 0, shift it by 180 degree. How will it look? So if this is your 0, and if you were to move it by 180 degree, it looks the same, right? 8. Okay, 8 is going to be very difficult for me to show, but yeah, if something like this, okay, this is something like an 8. If I was to move it by 180 degree, it still looks the same, right? It's very difficult, but yeah, I mean, it's actually very beautiful how, you know, your hands can make a lot of images. But yeah, okay, I've just showed 8 like this, right? So yeah, it stays the same. Okay, so these 0 and 8 are the only numbers for which the figure does not change. Baki sub, like you can see, changes. So 1, for example, take 1. If this is 1, if you shift it by 180 degrees, what happens is this, right? So just think of it like, okay, so now shifting by 180 degrees, it might be difficult for some people to imagine. So basically just do this, keep 1 point fixed, okay, keep the end point fixed, for example, and just think of rotating this image around this point. So if this is how you're, okay, just imagine this is where your 1 is, okay, this point jo hai, keep it fixed at 1 point, and then think of moving, let's say this is your 1 is here. Think of moving this 1 like this around. So this point, okay, the 1 will be of this kind, right? When you move it, what happens? So this part basically moves like this, right? So if there is something like this, it will, 1 second. What do I show you guys with? Okay. I think this works. So this, let's say, okay, this is actually pretty close. So if I have a 1 that is like this part, think it's something like this, okay? So when I move it with 180, if I keep this point fixed and I move it, it's going to become like this, right? So this part is going to become like this, and the straight line is going to remain the same. So basically, if I have a straight line and if I move it by 180 degrees also, it's going to become the same, doesn't make a difference. Right, so this is what the figure is going to be. So this inverting might seem a bit different, not different, sorry, might seem a bit difficult, but once you can envision it well or get it on your hands, or just think, just imagine, like imagination is what you need for non-verbal intelligence, because you're not using verbal cues, right? It's usually visual, so you need to imagine things. So think of a 1 that is standing in front of you, okay, 1 has come and you're telling the 1, turn by 180 degrees. So when that 1 turns, how is it going to look? That's all you need to think of. So if it's a 2, just think that a 2 is standing in front of you and you're saying it, move, turn by 180 degrees. So just think, how is it going to look when it rotates? Not fully, but by 180 degrees, okay? So that's all you have under mirror images of numbers. Now we will begin with a question. Select the alternative which exactly matches with the mirror image. Fun. So I actually think there's a mistake in the answer of the question. Just give me a second. So, oh yeah, actually there is a mistake. It's okay. You guys can still, okay, so since there's a mistake, I'll just explain the option. Basically, see, the thing is, you need to find the mirror image for this, right? So fun, and just imagine there's a mirror here. How will F look like? F will look something like this. Do you get that? Basically, imagine your F is standing here. You are telling it to rotate by 180 degrees. How will it be if it moves by 180 degrees? It is going to be, again, I'll try to use my hands for this. Okay, this is your F. Just imagine that this is your F. Okay, okay, for you guys, it's going to be this. So if this is your F, and if you move it by 180 degrees, I hope you guys can see this, okay, right? If you move it by 180 degrees, it's going to be something like this, okay? So the figure is going to be, if this is the F, okay, actually this also works, right? So if this is the F and you move it by 180 degrees, it is going to be like this. So it's just going to be the opposite. This is how F is going. U is going to be the same, right? So you have a U, even if you move it by 180 degrees, it's still going to be a U, okay? And then for N, okay, if this is your N, okay, if this is your, I'm not sure how you guys see this as, okay, I think, right, so yeah, now you would see it as an N. So for me, I see the inverted image, but for you guys, this would be an N. Now if I were to invert it, it looks like this, right? So if you invert it, it becomes like this. So just think of this, you have an N and you're inverting it. Basically, you are taking this N and you're saying this N, turn by 180 degree, okay, and just keep this point fixed. So if the N rotates around this point, what is going to happen? It is going to move. It's going to move like this, and then it's going to move here, and it's going to be something like this. Okay, so this is how the answer is going to be. So the answer is none of these options. It's an option that looks like this. F, U, N. This is how it is supposed to look like. So this is the alternative which matches exactly with the mirror image, right? So that's it. We are done with mirror images. Moving on. Water image. How does water image work? So water image basically refers to the reflection of an object in water. So if you, you know, how the reflection looks. So mirror image is basically the reflection in a mirror. Water image is the reflection in water. It is a vertically inverted image obtained by turning the object upside down. So in water, if you can see, okay, if you do not know how this works, do one thing. If you have any pond or something of that sort near your house, go there, stand in front of the pond and look at, or just keep something above the pond and see how the reflection looks. Or you know, if there's a tree near the pond, see how the reflection of the tree looks you know, in the pond. Okay, so basically what happens is that in water image, the opposite of what happens in a mirror image happens. In a mirror image, like we said, the right becomes left and the left becomes right, right? It's lateral inversion. The right will become left and the left will become right. In water image, what happens is that the top will become the bottom and the bottom will become the top, but the right and left will remain the same. In mirror image, the top and bottom remain the same, but right became left and left became right. In water image, right and left will remain the same, but top will become bottom and bottom will become top. Okay, that is what happens. It is a vertical, so this is called a vertically inverted image. What happens in a mirror image? Do you remember what it was? Lateral inversion. It is a laterally inverted image. In a water image, what happens is vertical inversion. It will be vertically inverted, as in if it's something like this, it goes down. For a mirror image, this becomes this 180 degree, right? But yeah, this is how a water image works. So in a water image, LHS and RHS remain unchanged while the upper and lower parts get interchanged. Okay, this is how it works for an RHS. So this is basically your figure, and the water image is going to be, so basically see, the top of this figure will become the bottom. So one way to think of a water image is basically, okay, for this, for example, just in, so for mirror image we did an 180 inversion like this, right? For water image, do a 180 inversion like this from top to bottom. For lateral inversion, you do a 180 degree rotation like this, right? For water image, do a 180 degree rotation like this. So basically this becomes this, is what happens. Okay, so here what happens is also the same thing. Just think this human that you have, if you just inverted the human, what would happen? That is what happens. So just do a 180 degree inversion from top to bottom. Okay, in a water image, LHS and RHS remain unchanged while the upper and lower parts get interchanged. This is what I just said. Okay, so that is all that you have under water image. Now we will end this this part here. We have just some more topics. I'll take that in the next class, because I think it's better, you know, there's like since for under intelligence we don't really do a lot of theory, right? So it's the first time I have been teaching you guys so much theory. So we'll take a break for now, and not a break exactly, but this we will continue for the next chapter. Not now, I mean not next chapter, we'll continue this in the next class. So what is left, I'll just give you a quick idea of what we have left. Basically we have figure completion, which is very interesting. Formation of figures, this might be a little difficult, but it is very interesting. I have a video and all of that for you guys, in case you guys find this difficult. It's a very interesting video. that you have, you just see how a figure is being formed. 1 second, yeah, you'll see it now. So you just, it's a very interesting video. Yeah, so yeah, you look at the figure being formed, and then we have something called embedded figures, which is very easy, and something called counting of figures, which is also fairly easy. So these are the topics that are left right now. We will end here with water image. Okay, so just we'll a quick go through all that we studied. We studied angular movement of designs, we studied mirror image, we studied mirror image of capital letters, small letters, numbers, and then uske baad, after that we studied water image, right? That's it. Now for the next class we'll start with figure completion. Okay, so that's it for now.